Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for being here. First of all, I'd like to extend my thanks to Reflect and also the chairman of Tech Island for inviting me to be here with you. It's always a pleasure. So this is a topic we can talk for about hours, days, etc. I'll try to demystify a few things on it, right? So on the title, you see there, leapfrog effect, right? Why do we call this the leapfrog effect? Because we believe that here in Cyprus right now, if we make the right decisions, we can actually create a game-changing environment for the public sector, for the government, for all of you, all of the startups that are there. Now, I'll start with a disclaimer, given that I come from a corporate world. Everything I say is here today, to you today, describes the vision, describes where we want to go, what we want to build, right? But don't use it today as a way of you investing, right? Always this is a way of saying that take this with a pinch of salt. We may be a bit later, we may be a bit faster. So, as we move on, right, AI is a fantastic technology. It's a technology that is an enabler, that it can really help us change the way we do things. But it is not a technology that works alone, right? For us to be able to harness artificial intelligence, we're going to need data. We're going to need IoT-based data. We're going to need a lot of integration of bringing everything together. That's why when I sit and I think about how we going to future-proof Cyprus, I think of four things. Here you see three. Data, industry, tech, research and innovation. Why? I'll start from the research and innovation. Research and innovation is an enabler that helps us pivot slowly into the future. Some things happen in a very short time frame, some will happen much faster. So why do we invest in research and innovation? Because we want to see how we're going to bring quantum with AI. This is going to really change the game for us, but it's not here today. So for us as a government, we're actually as part of the task force that I'll talk a bit later on, we're thinking as to how are we going to structure and how are we going to prioritize the areas of research. As you see there, the second one, industry tech. Industry tech is important because if you don't start to visualize how will the industries of the future change, how will they adjust, you cannot really develop policy or a conductive environment that can basically make things happen. We're moving in a very, very fast state, right? We used to talk about, let's say, real estate, about, for example, banking. Now we talk about fintech, we talk about retech, we talk about health tech, right? Because all of these are changing. So as we as government are taking into consideration the industry, we're also working within the task force to build those conditions, the boundaries that are going to help us. And the third one here on the left is data, right? Data is the most important asset for us to be able to really build on. And in Cyprus, we have had to start with a situation where we have siloed data. So we're actually working and building the necessary platforms to move together. Now, I just put this here behind just to explain in a simple word, right? Why do we need AI? We need AI because it's the only technology right now that can help us scale infinitely, right? So I'll take an example. I'll take a fintech example. If you actually want to provide, for example, wealth management services, in the old days we used to have, wealth management consultants that used to focus on 10, 20 big high net worth individuals, but they could not actually scale. Then came companies that embedded AI in it. They created, let's say, conversational intelligence, and then they could take this product and offer it to lower, medium, let's say, individuals, net worth individuals, and then to the lower line. So basically, AI has a massive potential to scale at marginal cost. What this means is that by embracing the technology correctly, we can actually create applications that can serve not 1, not 2 million people, hundreds of millions, right? And this is what is very important for all of you startups, because as you're building for the future, you don't design for Cyprus, you design for the world, right? You design for scale. And those decisions make a very big difference. Now, this is something that I saw. It caught my interest on a book, and I actually have been using it for more than 7 years now. We talk about, how many of you have heard the term software eats hardware? Raise your hands up, right? Well, what is gonna happen, right, is that digital will eat software. Right? And what's happening right now is that as you see all of these new code advisors, this AI-powered assistants, the ChatGPTs, and all of these technologies, they help us, right, go much faster, but at the same time, they're transforming two things. They're transforming the experience that you see here and the outcome, and they're also using intelligence to create autonomous products or intelligent products. This is why when you here in Cyprus think about foodie, or when you're in a foreign country, you talk about Uber Eats or Airbnb, etc., right? You use something on your app. Is that a solution or is that an experience? That is an experience, gentlemen and ladies, right? That's where the world is going. They're coming here. And to get here, you have to fundamentally change how you are serving the customers in the end. And when you hear companies talking about autonomous technologies, they're using all of this automation to make self-adjustable products, self-securing products, self-defensible, let's say, solutions, and all of these areas coming together. So this map here is going to really show us that in the future, right, we're going to be seeing that the overall solutions that are being built are going to be more like outcomes, experiences as a service. And this also requires fundamental rethinking of how we engineer for this new world. How do we actually enable it with platforms? How do we enable it with policies? How do we enable it with tools? And everything moving forward. So to future-proof, you have probably heard either me or the Deputy Minister talk about, that we envision Cyprus to have a cloud-first policy that we're working by the end of the year, early 2026. Then a mobile first, and then an AI first. But that's going to take us some time. That's AI first is basically towards 2028. The reason we want to do that is because if we are going to be moving to that direction, we will be able to create a conducive environment that helps solution designers, companies, startups, even public sector offer a service called personalized, let's say, interactions. And to get there, there's a few elements that you see on the board. It starts with redefining and adjusting your R&I strategy, the data strategy, the infrastructure that is actually required. And infrastructure is not just a computer, right? It's a lot of other things together. One you thought I forgot, but I didn't. It's called talent, right? And the people is very important. And the last but not least is the go-to-market support or the route to market, right? Make no mistake. You cannot be profitable as a business, be it a startup, an innovator, a tech company, if you don't think about the last one. You can have a great product, but if that great product doesn't have a business model that scales, boom, it's gone, right? So think about Amazon. Amazon started as a warehouse for books, right? Then they realized that they could actually ship the book. Then when they saw people buying the book twice, they started creating a business model for Kindle. Then they went forward, they said, wow, there's some people who want to hear the book, right? So they created Audible. Then they realized that there were people who were buying the same book and the same audiobook. And what did they do? They created a model called Prime. That's 5 business models altogether. That's why it's very hard for companies to compete. And this is why you're seeing that what is becoming more and more dominant is the companies that are using AI in a platform business model, and they're changing the game. And it's very hard to compete. So ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something very simple. Data is not the new oil. Data is actually the oil that can be monetized. And think of AI as energy, the new energy. When you bring these two together, you can achieve amazing things. However, there are more opportunities for us. So for us, right, people ask me, say, how do you build a future where Cyprus becomes a relevant hub for research, innovation, and technology, but at the same time, right, the cost of really going to these technologies is very high. Well, as you see here, we need to actually get to a point where we connect Cyprus to the rest of the world, not because we're disconnected, but because if Cyprus builds a data center that can actually host startups, tech innovation companies here, those startups or those companies can benefit from the MOUs or the government relationships we're building with the UAE, with Saudi, with Israel, with other areas. And you as a startup will have a bridge that you can operate on across a territory. In essence, it's an opportunity where you actually gluing Cyprus to the EU, but at the same time, gluing it to the GCC, right? And why is that possible? That's possible for 2 simple reasons. Because as a member of the European Union, we need to really abide by the standards of data centers, GDPR, the Data Act, etc. But at the same time, going towards other clusters like the GCC, which also have other standards, you have to meet both. So Cyprus can be the hub, and it will be the hub. It just takes careful articulation and building it. So what I'm showing you behind is an example that imagine if you have UAE, a data center in Israel, or a data center in Egypt, or a data center in Saudi, you have Cyprus, this part could actually have a full high availability, high tolerance environment. At the same time, Cyprus, the Cyprus government or Cypriot companies could also have full tolerant, high availability zones on Italy, France, Germany, Spain, Greece. So this creates ultimate flexibility, and what you see there, it's called sovereignty, right? The reason we care about sovereignty, it's not because somebody will take our data. It's because we can control the bias the data quality has in it, right? So moving onwards, how do you do that, right? How do you build it? I'm actually told I have 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Am I boring, guys? Can I take a few more seconds? Sorry, I'm going too fast, trying to meet the time. So basically, the one building block we're building is we're first of all going to be part of the HPC AI factories. The AI factories are part of a European Union project that gives us access to artificial intelligence compute power, right? But that means that you can use something somebody else has, but that's not going to be enough, because we plan to eventually get to a point where we will have what I called earlier on an AI-first policy at some point of time. So to do that, we need to do what this guy is saying here. That's data centers, local data centers that are built with AI in mind, right? Why do we want that? We want that because if you don't have data close to an edge, close to the node where you process it, the actual consumption power and the actual processing power is going to be immense. So to do that, you see here there is a little chip there. That AI chip there is fundamentally, right, something that we want to bring. How many of you have heard of a company called Tenstoran that visited us a few days ago? Nobody, right? So when we went with the president to the US, we visited a company called Tenstoran. Tenstoran is a challenger on the GPU spot, but it is very different than the others that you have seen. The way it is different is the following three things: open hardware, open software. What that means is that you're not going to be locked, or we will not be locked, in a GPU that belongs either to the Far West or the Far East or somewhere else. That means that when we actually use that technology, right, we actually have the data, and that data is not going to be going through another cloud or another distribution area. It's going to be here. So everything we will be able to build based on that will actually be here. That's a game changer, right? We are now the only ones who are talking about this level of flexibility. The second thing is that a GPU, right, depending on the chipset, comes about 30% more cost efficient, 30% cheaper in terms of price. So that means we can do more with less, right? And then there are research infrastructures that we actually are planning to use. Those infrastructures include F3, slices, Digin, which are some structures we have, like a digital innovation hub the government has with some centers that are there to support your companies, right, that actually want to move to digitization. So these are some of the enablers we're building. Now, where are we today? Well, we have actually announced or launched an AI task force. It's comprised of 11 people. I'm the 11th one. I act as the chairman. There's some decorated people coming in from academia, from research, from the industry. We then, right, have actually started the process where we're putting in the AI factories. So we're basically cooperating with people, right, to really bring them all together. We actually have and followed the AI Act, where we have already started meeting the obligations of the European Union. But the most important thing that we're doing that is a game changer is we've started to create programs at the National Research Innovation Foundation that allow startups, that allow tech companies, innovation companies, to come in and meet a government need, right? It doesn't matter how small you are. It doesn't matter, right, how many people you are. If you have the capability to really go through that MVP and solve a solution, that program can help you, right, be part of that MVP. So this is part of the initial journey we have. Now, where do you start when you're trying to build this, right? You need one thing that's important. That's data. In Cyprus, we're still a bit behind, so we have to admit it. We actually are at a point where we're designing a unified data platform, a data governance platform, and that platform is going to be the game changer, because if you don't have data in one place or the other place and you have to go in silos, the quality of the learning algorithms you create, it's not going to be too high. So then, right, you actually go into a different discussion saying, well, We can do it with another technology called small language learning models. We could, but then we're not focused about the scale. So what we're working, as you see here, abiding to the regulations. By the end of the year, the Deputy Ministry of Digital Policy, Research and Innovation will have the policy design in place, and that is then subject to the Council of Ministers moving forward. Take two things from what you see here. The actual definition of what an AI system has been broadened. Even if you use a code assistant that uses AI to design a new piece of software, you will fall under the AI regulation of the EU AI Act. The other thing that is very important is AI protects, right? The EU AI Act protects basically the classification of use cases. High risk, acceptable risk, low, etc. So as we speak today, the safest way where you're actually implementing it for customers is actually basically through going through limited areas that are important, like chatbots or where we don't have specific risks. So the implementation timeline, we're actually on track. By 2026, August, we need to have the sandbox. But you are here to ask me two more things and find out two more things from me. So what are we going to be doing in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months? Well, in the next 6 to 12 months, you see that we already have a digital citizen, we have a digital assistant. We're now launching out the program which is called AI for Government. You see underneath that, we're working on bringing in new AI companies here. And by the way, I can tell you something. Last year when I spoke somewhere, there were 50 companies and competency centers in Cyprus that do AI. This year here, just in Reflect, I personally saw at least 77 startups that are using it, right? And that's just on an ad hoc basis. So I think that Reflect, Tech Island, I'd like to thank you. You're doing a fantastic job in really pushing it forward. So guys, keep doing it. I said ladies and guys. So then, moving on forward, our plan is to get the AI strategy, the draft version in place to actually get some feedback from you, from the tech associations and the others by the mid of September, right? And we're actually planning to use, let's say, AI technologies in areas where we're giving productivity boosts. I see some of you here. I think there is one of the companies, Goldman is here, that's actually implemented not one, not two, not three, but at least 7 RPAs in the government that bring production, right, productivity. We're going to use more of that. So those of you who are really bringing RPA, conversational assistance, AI in together, please click up. And you'll see me in the next 2 weeks. I'll actually be launching my digital advisor. So I do 3 things. I act as the CTO, I act as the AI guy, and I act as the chief scientist. So I want to clone myself. So I'm going to be using a tool that I'm going to test myself. It's called the Digital Advisor. Now, ending up with the most important part for you, right? What are we going to be doing as a task force? Our approach is very, very simple. We have put in a team that comes and brings industry experts, top researchers, academics, strategists and futurists all together, because we don't want to design an AI strategy that's going to tell us what do we do until 2028. We want to put something that's going to build a vision until 2035 that is going to be so big, so bold, that is going to tell us how we bring and change the world. To do that, you also need to see what the most advanced countries are doing, right? Those in AI are France, or the UK, or Singapore, Japan, Israel, USA, etc. Those are some of the things that we're actually looking right now to really move forward. What we are looking at is building the best practices and based on areas. So we do have an MOU with the UAE, who's really doing a phenomenal job in AI, right? I mean, what we have actually done there in the UAE, and I say we because I'm also half Emirati. So the most important thing is that we really need to learn and really need to see from the mistakes and opportunities others have done. Now, breaking it down, as you see, the actual task force will be looking to identify specific use cases and specific items and direction of travel on an industry basis, the change management that is required from an educational and knowledge perspective to prepare humans to be able to work in an augmented future where AI is a tool for us, right? So when my wife asks me, what's your superpower, Demetris? I say, AI, right? And she says, explain that to me. I said, I no longer have to read 1,000 pages. I no longer have to screen through my emails very fast. I no longer have to do the critical thinking. I use it to help me, and then I say, help me understand this. what's wrong in my thinking? And that doesn't solve the problem for me. It actually helps me develop my critical thinking. So as you see here, change management on the workforce. What do we require for the infrastructure? So yes, maybe what I showed you there is not big enough. And that's where you guys and all of you were going to tell us, you know what, Chief or Deputy Minister, maybe we need to think about more AI competency centers, more AI experience centers, right? More AI, let's say, infrastructure. Then prioritizing these use cases, because AI is not for everyone. There are many things that when you use AI, you might fail. And last but not least, we are looking and we are thinking with the help of the legal team and also through experience coming in from Nico Nuptias to actually start thinking about how we will leverage AI from an IP perspective to create a game-changing opportunity for us, for you here in Cyprus. Let me end with one note, right? We can only learn if we really approach with caution, but if we really look at the opportunity ahead. AI has a massive scale-up effect. AI has a massive creation of value effect, but that requires us humans to think. And imagine a future where you can just wear your Apple Watch, you go to sleep, it detects a signal on your heart, it connects to a digital virtual human twin, right? And it tells you that you need to be in the doctor's office in less than 1 hour or you will suffer a stroke, right? There are thousands of people that actually lose their lives because they don't have this intelligence. The UAE is building a solution like that. But what I'm saying to you, for those of you who have ideas, who want to build amazing solutions, come and talk to me offline here at the office. And I know I've shared too much for you for about 17 minutes. My time was up. I really apologize. Thank you very much.